Maxwell will speak to us about dealing with adversity and leadership lessons. Nick is the Leadership and Cultural Manager, Collingwood Football Club. He is the epitome of hard work, persistence and team. After years of knockback, he came from one of AFL's greatest success stories, going from the rookie list to an AFL Premiership captain. The Premiership captain of probably one of the most well-known sporting teams in Australia, that being Collingwood. And broke the drought by winning the flag in 2010. Maxwell is recognised for his excellent leadership capabilities, becoming a successful leadership coach within the Melbourne Storm, the Greater Western Sydney Giants, and advisor to leaders in business. Please welcome Nick Maxwell.
Collingwood supporters? So 90% of you hate me, so that's a good start. Got a few supporters in the room though, that's good. I grew up in Geelong and played for Hawthorn, so I didn't know anything about the Collingwood Footy Club. I didn't know that when I was named captain, 20 million people around the country immediately hated me, but it's something I've certainly come to live with. I want to talk to you about, usually when I do these talks, I go on and I speak for about an hour, but when Mike said I had about 12 minutes, I thought I'm going to have to cut out most of this. So apologies to a lot of the adults in the room, but I'm talking to your children. So those who are sort of, 15 to 18. I want to talk to you about my plan, and my pathway was about AFL football. So whether or not you want to be an AFL player, you want to be a lawyer, you want to be an accountant, and fine accountant in that one, or anything else you want to be, it's still relevant to you. So what I want you to think about while I'm talking is, what is your plan? And you as an individual, what is your pathway? I want to talk about plan A and plan B. That works? Beautiful. Can't see you all that light up there. So Richie McCaw, some of you will know who he is and a lot won't. When he was 8 years old, he's actually basically the greatest rugby union player of all time. He's the only person to captain his country to 2 World Cup wins. And when he was 8 years old, Richie McCaw wrote, his uncle said to him, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" He wrote GAB, Great All Black, which is the comment down the bottom there. He went off to school because he lived a long way away from schooling. He was on a farm. And when he got back to his home at 26 years old, like a lot of you, when you actually leave home, you can end up finding your way back home and your parents won't have changed your room at all because they don't want you to leave. They always want you to come back and know your childhood. Betty's still there. He did that, and he came back at 26 years old when he was already a successful player, and he found that piece of paper in his top drawer, exactly where it was when he left it many years before that. So wouldn't it be a great All Black? And it's interesting what Robbie was talking about before, because I was the same. When I was 12 years old at school, I wrote down, if I could do anything in the world, plan A, what would it be? And I said, I want to play AFL footy. I was obsessed with AFL footy, and that's what I wanted to do. I wasn't all that good at it, but I was obsessed with it. And then my teacher said to me, write down plan B. So have your dreams as much as you can possibly do. What do you want to be? But have a plan B. And they were realistic to me. They said, listen, not everyone gets to play AFL football. So I wrote and played the highest level of football I could. And for me, that was probably going to be at St Joseph's Football Club, which was my local football club, where I started playing when I was 6 years old, playing under 10s, and that's what I was passionate about. I wanted to work hard at school, and the only reason I put that there was because my dad was a builder. My brother followed my dad around like a puppy dog, and he just did everything with him. I could not even hammer a nail. I was useless. I knew that I was never going to be doing that. I never wanted to be out digging holes, being a landscaper or doing anything like that at the farm that we used to live on. So I knew that school was the only way I was actually going to get anywhere if I couldn't play AFL football. So I had to work pretty hard at that. The third one was I wanted to make my own money. And the reasons behind that was I saw that you go to the movies with your mates or go and do whatever you wanted. So at 14 and 9 months, when that first opportunity came to make money, I put my resume in everywhere I possibly could because I wanted to make sure I did that. I want to talk to you how I went between plan A and plan B for many years. So to play AFL football growing up at Geelong, if you're not part of the Geelong Falcon system, you're never going to play AFL football. You've got to go through the elite system, work your way up on that pathway. So for me, the first opportunity came 1997 as the bottom age under 15s. There's about 80 of us in the squad, and then within a week there was 70 and 60 and 50 and 40, and they keep getting people to leave as they shorten the squad. We got down to the night before they announced the final squad, and 10 of us were asked to stay behind, and the rest of the boys walked that way. Jimmy Bartell walked that way in the big group, and I thought this isn't good, because Jimmy, even at 14 years old, was an unbelievable player, and he was never going to be cut from this squad. So sure enough, I was cut. So all of a sudden I'm thinking plan A, Geelong Falcons, yeah, they've invited me down, I keep making the cut. Nah, gone, can't even make the squad. So back to plan B. Highest level of footy I could. Went back and played at St Joseph's Football Club, my local club. Won a premiership in the under-15s, had a ball, but I wanted to play for the Falcons because I wanted to play AFL football. Got that job, resume went in, got the job at KFC, $3 an hour for the first 3 months while I was a trainee. But absolutely loved it because I was making my own money. I was starting to save up and do what I wanted to do. And obviously working hard at school. Got invited back to the Falcons, 1998. It was the top age under 15s. Same thing, 80, 70, 60, 50, 40. Got to the night before the squad was announced. Jimmy went that way. I was standing here. I got cut right at the end. So plan A wasn't going too well for me. The next year, 1999, again, I'd still been working at KFC, still doing what I could at school. I was doing one of the Year 11 subjects in Year 10, which I know some of you older kids will know what I'm talking about. So I was trying to do as well as I could at school. And the squad was under 18s, so there was 100 this time, 90, 80, 70, 60, all the way through. Got cut, so I missed out. Those 3 strikes, so it wasn't looking good for me at all. But I had a big year of development that year. Who here is born January, February or March? Put your hand up really high. January, February or March. Everyone look around at those with their hand up. If you're born January, February or March, more often than not in this room, you'd be the elite athlete. Now you want to put your hand up, don't you? You'd be elite athlete. There's a big study done for over a decade in the States, and they found there was more elite athletes born in January, February, March than any other time of year. And the reasons they gave behind that were, and I'd do this, I'd go to a footy clinic. They go, righto, you've got 10 minutes with these kids, get them all together. You go, righto, 6-year-olds over here, 7-year-olds here, 8-year-olds over here, and you split them up as quickly as you could, and you try and look after the kids and do a drill with them. But I could say 2 kids, they could be 11 and a half months difference in age, because I've said 6 years old. So a 6-year-old might have just turned 6, and you might have someone who's about to turn 7 the next day. So they're both 6 years old at that stage, but when you're talking about a year of development, and at that age, that can be huge. They can be miles off where they are. So think about that age, think about 12, 13, 14, all the time that happens. And quite often you've got kids who the younger sibling ends up being better than the older siblings because they're always chasing them. They're always trying to keep up with them. It's the sink or swim mentality. So in those drills, you could put 6-year-olds and an almost 7-year-old together, and the older one is obviously going well. The younger one can't keep up, so they either quit, they don't want to do it anymore because they don't want to be, no one wants to be the worst at anything, or they improve and they actually keep watching, they observe what they do, they challenge them and they catch up. So that's why quite often the younger siblings end up being better because they've been mimicking their older siblings. A few people looking around at each other nodding. I like it. So at this age, at 16 years old, why that's relevant? When I came through playing football at that age, at 16, there wasn't every single game of football on TV. There was no internet. There was nothing like that. Well, there was internet, but dial up, and it never ever worked, and it took forever. So for me, I didn't get to watch the Hawthorn Footy Club very often. I lived in Ocean Grove, and they played at Waverley Park, so it was a 5-hour turnaround just to go watch them and go back. That's not including the game. So I didn't get to go all that much. So my heroes, the people I looked up to, were the senior footballers at St Joseph's Football Club. They were the ones I looked up to. We'd go and play under 15s or under 18s, then you'd hang up all day at the footy club, you'd watch the reserves play, you'd watch the seniors play, you'd go out at quarter time and 3/4 time and stand in the huddle with your heroes, looking up at them, going, how good's this? Like, that's what it was like. It wasn't social media. You couldn't follow them on Twitter or watch them on Instagram or anything like that. I mean, you kids who think, no, what the hell is he talking about? Because you've grown up with all that. Your parents know what I'm talking about. So for me, at 16 years old, they asked me to start training with them. So all of a sudden, my heroes were asking me to go and train with them. So I'd train with the under 18s, and then it'd be an hour between the under 18s and the seniors. So I'd go out there and I'd be kicking right foot, left foot, marking, right hand, left hand, doing everything I possibly could, because I didn't want to let down my heroes, the guys who'd asked me to train with them. So I had a massive year of improvement. At the same time, I went from being a rover, so I was like the shortest player in the team, to basically the height I am now in the space of 9 months. I'm taller than anyone in my family by about 5 inches, and Mum and Dad are convinced it was the steroids in the chicken at KFC because I ate a hell of a lot of KFC. So at 17 years old, I played at 16, I played one senior game with St Joseph's Football Club. We lost by 124 points and I was dropped the next week. It wasn't all my fault at 16 years old, but I was part of the blame. So that's all I ever did was play one senior game. But went back to under 18s, as I said, had a great year of development, shot up, had to learn to play a different position and started playing the back line. At that age, at 17 years old, got invited back down the Falcons. By this stage, because I'd improved so much that year, I was the fittest guy on the list by a mile. Every time we do running during training, I'd win by miles. I'd had heaps of improvement and all the feedback was really good. We got to our first intra-club practice match. So everyone's playing against each other. You're playing against your teammates and they're going to pick the team from that. In the first 5 minutes, I handballed the ball off to someone. I went to put on a shepherd and the guy jumped and stuck his knee in my back and snapped a vertebrae in my spine. So at 17 years old, I was told I couldn't play for the next 5 months and I was cut from the Falcons for the 4th time. I got my back right, came back halfway through the year, played under 18s with St Joseph's Football Club. But this is all plan B. I wanted plan A. I wanted to play AFL footy and I just kept getting knocked back and it wasn't good enough because that's what I wanted to do. Got to the end of that year, for some reason the Falcons invited me back for a 5th time. 120, 110, 100, 90, 80, all the way down, and I finally made the squad. Played every game for the Falcons that year. Let's just talk about the ugly blonde hair for a start. Mickey Turner, who's the general manager down there at the Falcons, he told me to dye my hair blonde because I'd stand up for the recruiters. As I said, I'd do anything I could to play AFL footy, so that was plan A. We got through to the end of the year and we had a pretty reasonable team. We had Luke Hodge, Gary Ablett, Jimmy Bartell, Brent Maloney, Matt Maguire, Tim Boyle, Joel Reynolds, Tom Davidson, Luke Vogels. I've missed a couple too. There's about 13 guys end up on an AFL list from one team. Amongst those guys, I won the best player in finals. And all of a sudden, all these AFL clubs started coming down and interviewing me, interviewing my teachers at school, interviewing my parents, interviewing the coaches, the principal. So kids, if you want to play AFL football, it's not just about being a good footballer. They're going to interview everyone, so you've got to make sure you're doing everything right. So got through all of a sudden, I'm like, how good's this? I'm going to play AFL football. Plan A, it's on. The draft came and went. My name wasn't read out, but I had 8 clubs ring me the next morning who wanted me to train for a rookie list position with them. So I had a decision to make. So I went through the 8 clubs with my coach and we decided that Port Adelaide would be the one I'd go to. They had ageing defenders, and also for me as an 18-year-old to show I was prepared to leave home, leave my family to move into state, would show just how much it meant to me to play AFL football. So I was supposed to be there a week. I got there the first day. I shook Mark Williams' hand. He sent me in to see the doctor to do my medical. I had some scans of me because I'd been carrying a groin injury. And he put my scans up on the wall, and I'm all excited about how good's this. I'm in an AFL club. And he said, mate, you got osteitis pubis. We won't be picking you. We're going to have to put you back on a plane. And I said, hang on, what do you... Number one, I chose you guys out of all these clubs, and you're the doctor, so who are you saying that I've got to go home? And what the hell is osteitis pubis? Which was a groin overuse injury because I'd been playing for my school and obviously playing for the Falcons as well. So I'm pretty stubborn. I managed to convince them to let me stay for the week, but they said, we can't pick you because we don't know how to fix this injury. No one had ever heard of osteitis pubis in 2001, and then every single player in the whole league had it the next year. So apparently they didn't know how to fix it. So I stayed for the week, learnt a lot. I'd go home every night and I'd take notes. I'd write down like Kane Corns and Chad Corns and Tread Ray and Primus and all these guys and what they did, how they did their weights, how they trained, etc., to learn as much as I possibly could. Got to the end of the week, I flew home. Me and my mates, I had that KFC money, remember? So me and my mates had put in $1,000 each, 5 of us, to hire a house down in Lawn to go and do schoolies. So I thought, how good's this? I'll go to the Port Adelaide, they're going to love me, and then a month later I'm going to end up on the rookie list. So I get to go do schoolies as well. How good's this? Anyway, because of what happened at Port Adelaide, I rang the Hawthorn Football Club. They were one of the other teams who were interested. I knew Luke Hodge had the same injury, and I knew he had it a lot worse than I did. And they said, yeah, we're not worried about it. We know how to treat it. So I said farewell to my mates. They went and had a great time down in Lawn for a week, and I went to training. Trained for a month with the Hawks. Got to the day before the rookie draft, and the list manager sat me down, the recruiting manager, and he said, there's 4 of you and there's only 2 positions. In order, we rate you number 1, John Baird, number 2, Nick Stone, number 3 was myself, and number 4 was Michael Georgiadis. Now, you don't have to know all those names. They said, what's going to happen is the Kangaroos have a pick before us, and we think they're going to pick John Baird. If that happens, we'll pick Nick Stone and you. If that doesn't happen and they leave him, we're going to pick John Baird and Nick Stone. So I left there pretty confident because they tend to know what's going to happen at the top of the rookie draft because they all speak to each other. Thought, how good's this? I end up at the club I barracked for with my good mate Hodgie. This is going to be unreal. Anyway, next day, a rookie draft came. Kangaroos picked John Baird. Hawks picked Nick Stone. And the Hawks' next pick, they picked Michael Georgiadis. I only found out about 5 years ago. I ran into the recruiting officer and actually in a lift at the MCG of all places. And I said, what actually happened? Because it didn't go the way that you said it, like worked out well for me. It didn't go the way you said it was. And he said, Peter Schwab, who's the coach, he made a last-minute call at the draft table because obviously he's the coach. And Georgiadis had played for Box Hill, which is Hawthorn's reserves, and he'd never seen me play because I had this injury. He'd only seen me on video. So that's his prerogative. But remember, I'm talking about plan A, plan B, so I always want to play AFL footy, but plan B was always ticking along. So I raised enough money to buy my own car, Mitsubishi Magna, 1996 model. Most of you weren't even born in 96, some of you kids here. And I'd worked hard at school, so I got into a double degree at Ballarat University. And if I couldn't play AFL, I wanted to play the highest level of footy I could. So I went and played VFL with Mike Beardsley, who just introduced me, at North Ballarat. Had one of the best years of my life. Absolutely loved it. Not just as an 18-year-old moving out of home for the first time and new experiences in a uni town, mind you, so we did go out a little bit. But I actually loved the responsibility of what came with it. So I worked at the Lakeview Hotel at a pub, pouring pots. I worked at the Complete Garden, which is like a nursery, selling pots and fountains and all that type of thing. I worked, and we were talking about before, I worked at Ballarat and Clarendon College a couple of days a week doing yard duty for year 8s, which taught me patience. And I got paid $150 a game to play football for North Ballarat in the VFL. Absolutely loved it. We had a great culture there, and Mike was a big leader of that. Got to the end of the year, and Geelong Football Club rang me up and said, we want you to come and train with us for a rookie list position. So I went down there, I spent a month training with them, got to the day before the rookie draft, and I got called into the office by the coach, Mark Thompson. He sat me down, he said, we're not going to draft you and we're not going to rookie you. I said, what have I been doing for the last month? And he said, well, we want you to play in our top-up list. So quick explanation, AFL list has 45 players on their list, 22 play in the AFL, 22 play in the VFL. You never have everyone available. So if you've got 40 available, 22 in your AFL, 18, and then the top-up list fill the last 4 spots. But effectively, if everyone was ready, everyone was available to play, or all the defenders were available to play, I didn't get a game, and I'd be back playing local footy at St Joey's. I love St Joey's, but I wanted to play the highest level of footy I could. So I said, thanks, but no thanks. He said, well, that's it. You'll never play AFL footy. You'll never get that opportunity. No other clubs are talking to you. And there was no one getting drafted after the age of 18, 19 at that stage. So I said, you know what? You're probably right, but hopefully I'll prove you wrong. I shook his hand and I left. This is about 4 days before Christmas, so I'd finished in Ballarat. The rookie draft had been pushed back, and my mum was dropping me off. We were driving from Ocean Grove still, from that at home, down into Geelong. I was going to go meet all my mates from school to have a Christmas beer and a feed, and I got a text message from a mate who said, well done the draft. So I looked at it, and Mum looked at me and saw I was confused, and I read it, and she pulled across 3 lanes of traffic, almost killed us, put up the handbrakes, going, ring him. I rang him up and said, mate, what's that all about? Was that for someone else? And he said, no, Collingwood picture. I said, no, I haven't spoken to Collingwood for 15 months. I'd know if they were going to pick me. He said, it's on the computer screen in front of me. And I said, no, it must be a mistake or a projection or something. And I just told him that Geelong didn't want me either. So I was going back to Ballarat and I was going to catch up with him for a beer in a couple of hours. So I got off the phone, hung up, really confused, thought it was really weird. And I looked down, I had 4 voicemail messages. First one, listened, said, this is Noel Judkins, recruiting officer from the Collingwood Footy Club. Want to welcome the club. Like, I'm going to meet about 30 of my mates. This is a massive stitch up. This is bullshit, and I deleted it. Went down the next one, this said, this is Mick Malthouse from the Collingwood Footy Club. I was like, yeah, of course it is, and I deleted that too. Went down the third one, it was a manager I'd signed with a year before that, and he was going off his head, just going, how good's this, you beauty, you made it, you're finally there, and carrying on. And I thought my mates wouldn't even know who that was. And the 4th one was Nathan Buckley, and that's how I found out I got to Collingwood. I spent my whole first year, no blonde hair anymore, still not great hair, but not blonde hair. my first year playing for Williamstown, the VFL, which was Collingwood's Alliance, and was lucky enough to win a premiership. And from there, I had a lot of one-year contracts because I was never the most talented player there was, but also knew what I wanted, and I didn't want to let anything get in the way of that. So despite the fact that I'm not going to say I broke as many bones as Robbie Madison, but I broke 28 bones in my time in 12 years at Collingwood. I had 11 surgeries, but every single time I just went, right, I've got to be back because someone's going to take my spot. So I've got to be back as quick as I possibly can, and that's what I always try to do. If they say it'd be 8 weeks, I'll be back in 4. And just always that mindset that he's talking about is I've got to get something done. So ask yourself, I got very lucky. I got to be there at the right place, right time, and lucky enough, as Mike said, to win a premiership. But I want you to take this one quote away for you. This is something an SAS soldier talks about. You're not responsible for everything that happens to you. And kids, there's a hell of a lot of things going to happen to you that you're going to think, why me? It's not fair. This shouldn't happen to me. Why does everything go wrong all the time? A lot of things are going to happen to you that are not your responsibility. But you are responsible for how you deal with what happens to you. So when you do get dropped from that team, or you don't get picked to do something, or you miss out on your uni course, you are responsible for what happens next. So I want you to think about that. Finally, what is your plan A and plan B? How are you going to get there? And what will your reaction be when things don't go well for you? I want you to have a think about that and go home, talk to your parents. Plan A can change. It can change 20 times. It can change all the time. My plan A now is different than what it was 15 years ago. It's different than what it was 5 years ago. Ask yourself those questions. Thanks for having me.
Thanks very much, Nick. I'll pull that down because I'm about 2 foot shorter. You know, incredible work ethic, resilience, and Nick always had that ability. I remember when he came to North Ballarat as a young fella, he had the ability to engage with the staff, the general manager, the youngest kid in the team, the leaders in the team. And I think, you know, you see in 2010 when there was a drawn grand final, you know, they played their hearts out. That ability to be able to then get up that next week, I think is testament probably to the man you just heard from, Nick being a leader for the Collingwood team, to be able to bring that group back up, to be able to play at such a high standard again the next week, and they absolutely walked all over St Kilda. So there's no reason, there's no doubt, Nick, as to why Collingwood have asked you to come back, and obviously a really important role there in terms of leadership and culture manager for Collingwood Football Club. So thanks for sharing your story.